Yeah.
So it's important for a cinematographer, this is a learning tool, that when a project is started from its inception, that the cinematographer and the production designer has to be like this. You have to communicate with one another what aspect ratio you're shooting, what is the language of that frame, is it more square like a 4:3, it's not as square like a 16:9, or is it very rectangular like a 2:3:9 anamorphic aspect ratio. So when you're dealing with that kind of aspect ratio, you have to make sure the sets are built with that in mind. You don't want to design sets this way now.
Yeah.
When you're shooting this way, because then 2/3 of your production design of your sets are out of your frame. So there has to be a harmony between the two departments to put all that finesse, all that work, all that creative visual aspects into that frame. What is that frame? It's your 2:3:9 aspect ratio. So you put all that muscle, all that design into that frame. So there's heavy communication now between a production designer and a cinematographer.
So when you have sets like that, and you have the potential for camera movement, how do you address, is that in conjunction with the director? How do you decide what moves and how these moves will be? Are they technocrane, up and down, around and around?
Well, that's the main job of a cinematographer, is to tell the story by way of not just lighting or the absence of lighting, but also camera movement. So you block a scene at the very, very beginning with your actors, of course, and you're there with the director, and you listen to the communication between a director and the actors. There's that dialogue when they're reading the sides of the script of that particular sequence. So you're seeing how things are being shaped and developed. You're listening very astutely to what an actor is saying, because he or she may want to be over here at this part of the set and not over here because of a particular reason, which was not what we thought about, the director and I, initially during prep.
Yeah.
So now you come to the set and you hear these conversations and things start to shift a little. There becomes a little more life now as to how things are moving within a set. So I'm listening to this, we're blocking, we're understanding how the shapes of the actors are moving, we're making marks on the floor. Naturally, me as a cinematographer, I will have a very strong stance with the director as to what side of the line I want to be on for the master. Then from there, we can carve from there. Because if there's a set with all kinds of windows, you know, I want to be on the opposing line. So those windows becomes a rim light, a key light, not on the flat side of their faces. You want it on the back side of the faces. So it carves a nice rim, a nice edge, a nice key. So the front of the faces where the camera is in shadow, is in darkness. That's the fill side. So that's sculpting the face.
Framing from the dark side.
Exactly. So from that master, then everything starts to fall into place, and then you start getting into coverage. But as a cinematographer now, I'm seeing the way the set is designed, the shapes of the set, how the actors are moving within a set. Now it's my job to figure out, with the director initially first, then when he goes off to the actors, I go off with my team, you know, where to place the dolly, you know, from A to B to C. Do I want it to be a dolly move? Do I want it to be lateral? Do I want it to be pushing in? Do I want a steady cam shot? Do I want a handheld shot? Do I want a crane doing all of that and then coming up in high and wide? There's an infinite amount of choices that one can use once you start moving the camera on your photography there for the set. So me as a cinematographer has to know how to tell that story precisely, how to engage and move the audience, not in a very overt way, but in an invert way, in a subconscious way. You don't want to be aggressive with these moves, but if you're saying something and it's a very poignant thing that you're saying, what I personally love, a very simple thing, is instead of just staying here, is I love pushing the camera in. A simple thing like that, which to me is gold. Because when you're pushing a camera in, and you're not aware of the camera going in because it's slow, so you're not aware of the movement, but you're feeling the face growing in the frame closer to you. So therefore, subconsciously, the audience is now being more in tune and listening more to what that actor is saying. You're listening more when you're pushing in. You're listening to the words more astutely. And not only that, when you start pushing in, you start being very connected to that actor. Like I'm talking to you, I'm looking at your eyes. There's a connection here, all right? When you're pushing in, now you're in the skull of that particular character. The audience feels that.
Yeah.
And then a very simple move is a camera move. You know, as you're pushing in towards the very end, I love maybe pushing down the camera a little, booming down. Because by booming down, raises that character up just a bit. It gives them a little more presence, a little more stature, a little more heroic feel, a little more strength. You know, if the character is very diminutive and not a good character and is weak, you may want to come up.
Yeah.
By coming up, he or she is lowering in frame now. All right? And subconsciously you're seeing that. You're not aware of it consciously, but you're feeling what's going on. You're feeling this character is going down an abyss, a downward spiral. His mind is being, you know, distracted per se, whatever the story may be told to you.
Yeah.
So it's the camera movements like that. If we're having a conversation here, you know, classic, you know, which I don't like doing, is the over the shoulder here, the over the shoulder there, 2-shot master, and let's press on.
Yeah.
You know, that becomes a very formulaic TV way of
This
shooting.
is the 2x4s of television, yeah.